Question: who was the first woman to serve in the American military? In our history of the world, there have been brave women who were leaders or served in ranking positions and fought in battles, conflicts, and wars. Joan of Arc, Boudica, Grace O'Malley, and Tomogozan are just a few of those women. And America, being only a short blip in that history of the world, has seen its fair share of brave women. For discussion's sake in this podcast, and per the U.S. military, nurses were seen as U.S. civilians even though they wore uniforms, so we will strictly be discussing women that served as military officers. America was born July 4th, 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was ratified by the U.S. Second Continental Congress. The United States of America is 243 years old at this current date. It's still such a young country in terms of world history and its military. It's hard to believe in the short amount of time and history of the USA. It has been in over 100 wars, battles, and conflicts. Some were large, some were small, and some are still going on, and many of them on U.S. soil. The U.S. military was formed in 1775 when the American Revolutionary War was being fought. During that war, the U.S. was fighting for its independence from the Kingdom of Great Britain. The Congress at the time requested that all colonies form militia companies from, quote, all able-bodied effective men between 16 and 50 years of age, end quote, which was pretty common for men under 16 to enlist because the majority of colonies had no requirement for parental consent for those under 21 years old. Black American slaves were also able to fight and enlist as they saw it as a way to gain freedom and was the major motive for them. During these times, women would have other duties with the war other than serving in the military. Women were still a big contribution and helped serve mainly through traditional female tasks in the home, supporting the local economy, and helping with the family businesses owned by their husbands and fathers. But there was one woman who would rebel against the norm. In 1782, Deborah Sampson Gannett was a 22-year-old Massachusetts woman at the time. She disguised herself as a man and gave herself the name Timothy Thayer. Upon being found out and recognized by a local resident, she attempted it again in 1782, where she chose the name Robert Shirtlift. I won't give her full detailed story here, but I recommend reading it. It's a good one. Now, we aren't taking anything from Deborah, as she served in the military as a woman, and very heroically, might I add. But the very first woman to enlist as a woman openly and recognized in the American military was Loretta Walsh in 1917. She became a U.S. Navy petty officer. She was the first active-duty Navy woman and the first woman to serve in any of the armed forces in a non-nurse occupation. Walsh was released from active duty in 1919, where she remained on inactive reserve status until the end of her 4-year enlistment in 1921. I think it's safe to say we are thankful for any woman or man that decides to serve in the military.